Well, I grew up in Birmingham in England, which is just about as far away from the ocean as you can live in the UK. When I did visit, it was to me a cold place, not somewhere you would really want to go swimming, and the water seemed mostly brown. I couldn't really understand the attraction of diving until I came to the Seychelles and saw the crystal clear blue waters and could see the amazing fish and corals that are there to be seen. So it meant something different to me when I was young, but now I understand the vibrancy of the ocean far better than I did when I was small. Well, ocean health is clearly essential to the existence and survival of Seychelles and its people, with the two main pillars of the economy being tourism and fisheries. And tourism that is very much centred around the beauty of the ocean and the activities that you can do, diving and fishing and sailing. This is the lifeblood of Seychelles. But I think also Seychellois people have always felt very connected to the ocean. It's all around them after all. And although many generations have not learned to swim and maybe don't know what's beneath the ocean, it's ever present in their lives. Well, I remember going on my first beach clean with the Ocean Project a few years ago. Can't believe how the time has gone. And going on subsequent ones, I'd say that the amount of litter and debris has increased a bit during my time. People tell me that years ago there was much, much less. What I've also noticed is that although some countries find that it's washing up on their shores, this waste and so on, here I think it's actually coming down the rivers and it's self-generated. There are lots of parties that take place on the beaches every weekend in Seychelles, and from what I remember picking up, a lot of that waste is from those parties. So this is a problem that has been created in the last few years, and it's one that can be solved just as easily and solved locally. Of course, in Seychelles' outer islands, maybe the causes of the ocean pollution and trash that's building up is from further afield, and that has to be looked at differently. Wow, if we don't do something now, I don't really want to think about the future like that. We've all seen these heart-rending pictures of animals, birds full of pieces of plastic, of turtles and sharks and dolphins caught up in pieces of plastic and so on. And indeed young people swimming on beaches just surrounded by litter. It's devastating. I can't think that we can't solve this problem. If we don't, we will not have a source of food, we will not have a source of pleasure, and we will have destroyed many of the other creatures that we share this earth with. Well, I can't understand why people throw litter. I was always brought up to take litter home with me, to put it in my pocket and to put it in the bin. And I think that is part of it. It's about your upbringing. I see someone drop a piece of litter in the street, and sometimes you see them not even thinking about it. And I will run after them and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry you've dropped something." And they always hope it's going to be a £5 note or a £10 note. And they look a bit disappointed and annoyed when they see that it's actually their cigarette packet or their crisp packet. But you can see that they don't really realise what they're doing. So I guess there are a lot of people for whom it's just never been pointed out to them that this shouldn't be done. A lot of people here sometimes say, well, that people are paid to pick up the litter, so it's keeping them in a job. I don't buy this at all, and you do see fly tipping and so on that really damages the environment. And I guess people like that, we have to help them to see the beauty of their environment and to understand that when you throw something away, where is away? Away is in your own home, in your own backyard and in your own country. And that's particularly worrying for Seychelles, which is a country that people come to precisely because of its beauty. But I think we should remember that in the UK, people used to throw litter a lot more in the old days, and maybe in those days things were wrapped in paper and more biodegradable things. Plastic is a relatively new invention, and for those older generations, because I think it is actually the older generations are worse than the younger ones in this respect. They don't realise there's a problem, that these things are going to last in the environment for a really long time. So in Britain we had to do something about it. We had a massive public information campaign, and it's called Keep Britain Tidy. It's been going for decades, and most people will recognise, even internationally, the symbol that was designed, which is a sort of a person dropping a piece of litter into a rubbish bin. So I think some of the solutions are for government to campaign and to educate, for schools to educate, but also parents and children. Children, educate your older generations. Tell them you want to grow up in a world that's pristine and not surrounded by trash. Well, I think Seychelles needs to tackle the problem urgently before it gets any worse, and I think it does start with having proper recycling facilities for your national waste collection. It's quite astonishing to think that we're still in a situation where a relatively small amount of the refuse produced in Seychelles is not recycled. We do have the PET, the plastic bottle recycling scheme, which seems to work very well. But at the same time, with that kind of thing, we have to remind people that just because it's being recycled doesn't mean that we should use as much of it as possible. So it's the old adage, reduce your consumption, reuse what you can, because it takes energy to produce things, and recycle when something is at the end of its life to be made into something else. So the first thing is to get this contract in place for proper recycling. Of glass, of metal, of all of the things that can be recycled, and all of the organic waste going back into composting and back into the goodness of the soil. That addresses so many problems in one go. But of course it does also rely on everyone participating, not littering in the streets, thinking about what they buy, and for a country like Seychelles, which is really so relatively easily able to control what comes into the country, tighter controls and more consideration given to the type of things that are imported. Are they going to end up staying in the earth, staying in the oceans? There are now a hugely increasing number of recyclable and biodegradable and non-plastic materials that can be bought, and I'd really like to see more tougher legislation, but also that being implemented rather more urgently than at the moment. You, everyone, it's all of our responsibilities, each person. This can feel like an overwhelming thing when you see the images of the trash vortexes in the Pacific and so on. But if everybody does their bit, then we can bear down on this. But I do also think it's up to people in positions of influence and power to be taking the decisions that prevent people from consuming as much plastic and from disposing of so much waste. That means reducing the amount of packaging, buying locally. This has all got to be done by corporations. So people in leadership positions in businesses and in government also need to think about how their small actions can influence a whole supply chain and stop things from getting out into the marketplace, if you like. Well, what can we do about the problem? I've been talking to people and advocating about preventing throwing of litter since I was a child myself, actually. Even at junior school, I was making presentations to my class about not throwing litter. So I keep doing that. I don't do it myself, and when I can, I highlight the problem to other people. So I think we can all as a consumer of products, we can tell the suppliers of these products how we want those products to be provided to us. So write to CEO of the company that provides your favorite coffee or magazine or whatever, and tell them you really love their product, but you're not going to buy it anymore if it comes in a plastic wrapper that can't be recycled. I've had some success with this, and I really think that if we as customers communicate our concern and our passion about this, then we can get a long way. Obviously, it's about the decisions we make in our purchasing, so buy less. Buy things that really last and that you're going to love, and love them even when they're a little bit beaten up and broken. And fix things. You know, this is all about just not wasting the Earth's resources. A lot of things come in a lot of plastic packaging. So when I order things on Amazon, where possible, I will write and say, please, can you wrap this in non-plastic wrappings, because where I live, that will not be recycled. And actually, I've had some people supply me with things and put a little card in saying, thank you for caring for the environment as much as I do. So it's a nice way to actually learn that there are lots of other people out there who feel as I do, and as maybe you do, that, you know, the world is worth taking care of, and we can each do our bit.